Muted. What a smooth beginning we've had there. Hello everyone. Welcome back to another virtual pub session at the Mackmyra Inn. Joined as always by my fellow landlords, colleague and friend Mickey Plummer. Hello, Mick. That was a nervous point, but I managed to do it.
First time.
Yeah, you did. You smashed it there. To be fair, I'll give you top marks for that one. And we're joined this week by our very special VIP patron, Madeleine Schmoll, aka Mads from SMWS. Good evening, Mads. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me. Yeah,
absolutely our pleasure. Are the pubs open again in Scotland yet, or is this as good as it gets at the moment?
Outside only. But you can have a pint outside, which is very nice.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, well, we're in here. We're inside tonight, at least, with a roof over our head. It's raining outside where I am, so grateful for the shelter, I would say.
Yes.
Mick, before we get stuck in and we have our first round, hello, Tamara. Any updates from us? What's happening in the world of Mackmyra?
What's happening? So next Wednesday, we're back with the Mackmyra Inn again, and our special VIP patron will be Chantel Bukzinski. I had to quickly look at that then because it's not the easiest name, and I'm sure we'll get a telling off from Chantel as well. Probably we pronounced it wrong, so apologies in advance, Chantel. And then the following night, on the Thursday, the 13th, we have our monthly tasting with our core range and Bjorksav. So come and join us. I believe packs are still available for that. So you've got just over a week to get yourself a pack. I believe £24.90 gets you the pack, and it's all on the website anyway. Because I'll probably just get things wrong, even if I've got it written down. I'll get it wrong. But like I always do. But yes, so the next couple of weeks we've got a couple of nice guests coming up for the next couple of pubs. We've got our monthly tasting. I can't even say monthly tasting today. On our monthly tasting coming up next week as well. So make sure you tune in and get your tickets for that, guys. If you're a regular, you know exactly what happens. If you're not, come for a bit of a deeper dive into what we do at Mackmyra, quite frankly.
Perfect. Mads, you joined us last week for one of them, didn't you?
I did. Yeah. No, it was great.
You have to say yes. You have to say yes. You had a good time.
Yes, I had a great time, and I would have said yes even if you hadn't prompted me to. No, it was really good to try all of the different expressions. I enjoyed that, and I enjoyed hearing the story behind each one as well.
Cool. That story, I think, is quite a big part of it. Liquid's obviously the most important thing. I think we should emphasise all the time. But I love a bit of story and a bit of history behind stuff. You know, the context of the larger tapestry that one can build around whiskey. Mick, I see you reaching for your bell about that time.
Hi, Rich. So as we know, that's the bell for me and Rich to get the first round in. So Chantel, that's next week's guest.
That's next week's guest.
I know Mads as well. Do you know what I mean? That's really bad.
You two are mates.
So Mads, what's in your glass? What are you having, pal?
What am I having? So I came prepared, and I have the bottle with me. I've got a Spiced Cannon, which is one of our blends. And I fancied something a bit lighter, but it's still got a spicy kick to it. So I thought it would be a good dram to start things off with. How about you guys?
Yeah, Mick, what have you got?
Oh, me? Okay, cool. Yeah. I'll go first. So tonight, as always, I'll do something a little bit different. I was flicking through my pictures on my phone today and come across a cool picture I took a couple of weeks ago for the guys at the Hit Flask Hiking Club. They run a wee online competition, not quite competition, but a wee Instagram thing for hashtag whiskey ice cream floats. Mm-hmm. So this is this evening's hashtag Hit Flask Hiking Club, hashtag ice cream whiskey float. And I've gone for a shush bush look fleeter.
Oh,
so
smoke.
Yeah. So cherry smoke float.
Wow, that sounds really good.
Yeah, indeed. It's and where does it get its colour from, Mick?
That would be the Cherryade. So there's a nice generous measure of shush bush look, which we've only got one bottle left in the shop at the moment. And that's it. Once that's done, that's gone. The shush bush look, topped up with some Cherryade, and a nice healthy dollop of vanilla ice cream for the float.
Very nice
Excellent.
indeed. Is that the first ice cream of the season?
No, because I did one a couple of weeks ago, Rich, if Cole picks the photo up.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
I saw
I
you
did.
share that picture with us earlier.
Yeah.
Actually. Very good.
York South cream soda with vanilla ice cream and a Caramac breakaway garnish, basically.
Very nice indeed, mate. I'm a big Caramac fan, I must say. Massive Caramac fan. I've gone for a moment as well. So something that we haven't planned this at all. I've not usually gone for the moments here. I've been keeping things sort of a bit more simple in the pubs that we've had, for the most part at least. But for anyone watching, and for Mads, if you didn't know, Mick and I aren't doing the landlords of the pub, and we're not doing our virtual tastings. We're now allowed back out on the road to go and do our role of area sales managers for the north and south, respectively. Mick being north, me being the south. And I've done now, I think, several range tastings for us, for different shops and customers that I've gone to, and not been able to drink any of the posh stuff, any of the moments. And I thought, well, enough of that. So I thought I'd pour myself on today, because I'm not driving this evening now. So I've gone for the EFA. For the moment, AFA Atling, it's named for. 20 casks, 19 of which being birch sap wine, and then the 20th had a bit of sweetness in there, being cherry wine. So Mick, you've gone for the cherry smoke float. Yeah, very good. Well, we're synergy, mate. I think we're well in sync there. Great, right. Well, that's the first round. That's all got our drinks. I'll say Skull. Mick, have you got anything to say for that in place of maybe?
Schmoll.
Well, indeed.
Skull.
Cheers.
Sorry, man.
So the two of you are mates. Mads, you and I have been sort of slowly getting to know one another across like Twitter and messages and stuff here and there.
Yeah.
First time we've met tonight. But for anyone joining us from home, any of our fellow patrons, I should ask actually as well. Hello, Bully. Let us know what you're drinking at home. Let us know what you've got for your first round this evening as well. But for anyone who hasn't come across you before, Mads, could you tell us a little bit, please, about yourself, maybe how you got into whiskey, how you started working at SMWS, in whichever order you would like.
Whichever order. So I actually started off my career working in a marketing agency, and I was there, and I loved what I was doing, actually. But I got the opportunity to go to the Cannes Lions as a young lion. They have a kind of week-long program where you get all of these great keynote speakers. And so I went along to that, and I was super inspired, and I kind of came back to my job, and I was like, okay, I love marketing. I love what I'm doing, but I need to be doing this in food and drink, because that's what I'm passionate about. And this is just what I need to make happen. So it took a wee while, but I ended up finding whiskey quite by chance. And I drank whiskey before I started working at the society, usually when I was camping. And then also because my dad, who's not Scottish, said it's a travesty to live in Scotland and not have a bottle of whiskey to welcome people to your home, to be able to pour them a dram and have a whiskey. So he bought me the first bottle that was ever kind of in my student flat at that point, which was Dalmore 12, which I kept for years, actually, because it felt too special to have when pals came round or something like that. And then after that, we would kind of take some whiskey camping with us. And then I started working at the society. And now, as you can see, more than one bottle here. What I do at the society is really all about the members, and that is what I was brought on to do. So although I'm social engagement manager, everything I do is about members at the heart. We have a community that's very passionate about whiskey, and one of my favorite parts, actually pre-lockdown, was getting to meet everyone at festivals or at tastings, or even just about in the venues. And that's not really been as possible in the last year. But I still have gotten to know a lot of people online, like yourself, Rich, through Twitter. And that is just one of the things, the society really brings people together over great liquid. And yeah, I love it. I also do a bit of writing for Unfiltered, so you'll see my name pop up there from time to time too. And I host our virtual tastings once a month. So
sorry, Mads, for anybody that doesn't know what's Unfiltered, obviously me and Rich know because
yeah.
that's because we're both members. But for the people that don't know, that are looking at maybe becoming SMWS members, what is Unfiltered?
So Unfiltered is our digital magazine, and it used to be a quarterly print magazine, but in the last year we've actually moved to a monthly digital publication. So every month there's interviews and stories from whiskey writers around the world, member profiles of our members, and also industry interviews with people working in whiskey. So if you like to read about whiskey, Unfiltered is the place to do it.
Yeah, it's full of insight. I'll say that for sure. And I've got you actually to thank, Mads, for my name appearing in one of them. I think the last printed copy, actually, I believe it was when you asked for some people to write some comments about podcasts and things, and I wrote in about One Nation Under Whiskey for the single cask. For Jess Lomas, a friend of Mick, and I'd like to think a friend of mine now that we've got to know each other over the last few months. She was a previous VIP pub patron as well. But yeah, so I was very chuffed. I've kept a couple of copies of that magazine so that I've got my name there for all time. So yeah, for that.
But obviously, Rich, as we know, that's a bit of an inferior podcast in this particular pub.
Which obviously you're talking about the SMWS podcast, Mick, being the top one.
No, that's the second one.
Okay, that's second. So what would, in your humble opinion, what would number one be?
Well, obviously it's the Quake podcast, isn't it?
Obviously, it must
obviously
be.
It's the Quake podcast, Rich. You know what I mean?
I imagine there's two handsome devils that are the hosts for that. Bless you.
Very handsome devils indeed, Rich. Very handsome devils indeed.
So have you appeared at all on the podcast? Have you had any influence in that so far? Because that's something that hasn't been going for more than a year or so, I believe.
It's actually it's a bit longer than a year.
Okay.
So that and yeah, I've made a couple of appearances on it. I interviewed Kirsty McCallum when she was at Tobermory in I think one of the first 3 episodes it was, and then earlier this year I had one of just a really fascinating interview with Imogen Russin-Taylor, who is founder of Kingdom, which is Scotland's first perfume house.
Oh, I don't know.
So we did an interview together talking about the relationship between whiskey and perfume, and smell and memory. And it was so interesting to hear about her process, and then compare that with, say something like the tasting panel and what they do. So it's definitely a really good podcast to check out, and her article as well, which was in the February issue of Unfiltered.
I can remember now actually that interview I had with Kirsty, because Mick, any of our regular pub patrons would know Mick and I speak an awful lot about Leipzig. The peated side of Tobermory as well. So she's been very much on my radar for some time. You mentioned there about the perfume thing. I think that's brilliant. And one of the picture that Carl showed up a minute ago, a picture of Unfiltered, where you're talking about the new thing that you guys are getting into with whiskey and music. But you think about perfume, and it's a very sensory experience, of course, when you're trying to create it. The same as when you're mixing or blending a whiskey, but even selecting a single cask from what you're going to bottle, you have to be switched on with it. And I always think about whiskey takes me back to that time and a place. It might be, and perfume for me, aftershave. If I find an aftershave in my cupboard that I haven't worn in years, and I spray it, I can remember where a few years behind where I might have been. But music, I think, does exactly the same job. It takes you back to that time and place instantly, like transport.
Instantly.
So what's the crack with if you will, with the music angle that you guys are looking at now, and what are you looking to do with it?
Well, so this month for us is all about finding your whiskey rhythm. As you said, music can really heighten the senses and transport you to another place or time in seconds. So what's really cool about this month is we teamed up with BBC DJ Vic Galloway, and we asked him to come up with pairings for each flavor profile. So he has come up with a musical genre for each of our 12 flavor profiles. And for those of you who don't know what our flavor profiles are, we tend to focus on flavor rather than the specific distillery that a whiskey's from. So we have 12 flavor profiles that starts with, young and sprightly and goes all the way through to heavily peated. And so, for example, young and sprightly, that musical genre is dream pop, and then heavily peated is heavy rock from the 70s. So nice. It's just, it's really fun. There's a Spotify playlist for it, actually, that's 3 hours and 15 minutes long and takes you through all 12 flavor profiles and all 12 different genres. So definitely recommend checking that one out.
Mick, what do you think about heavily peated being matched with, some heavy 70s rock?
It fits, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's like it's oily, it's grungy, it gets stuck in, and that's pretty much like what that music is, though, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? It's there. It's like, not quite maybe the hairspray stuff, of like the 80s, but pre that, where it was just like get right in there. Proper mosh pits, getting dirty, getting oily. Yeah, totally with that.
I love that. Well, flavour profile, Mick, I imagine you, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but the heavily peated profile must be one of your favourites, would it not?
It's up there. I think in my keep at the moment, so I have a keep at the members' room in Glasgow, and my bottle keep there. I don't think either of them are peated. So there was a peated one in there. And that was the Pink Flamingos from Boonhaven, Mads. Mm. That was first fill red wine barriques, peated, and that was just pink in the glass. It was phenomenal. I think Pink Flamingos on a barbecue or something like that. I think the title for it was, which we'll talk about titles of stuff in a bit, because I think it was definitely something. But yeah, but now because that one didn't last very long in my keep whatsoever. So while my red period was still like fairly fresh, I popped another bottle in there, and for the life of me, because it's been that long now, I can't actually remember what's in there.
It'll be a nice surprise when you get back, I suppose.
It'd be like putting the bottles in there for the first time again, like
Yeah. 18th of May, you'll be there. Queued up at the door.
More than likely, yes.
Yeah, so close, mate. You're nearly there. And Mads, what about you? Do you have a favourite? I mean, it could change week after week, of course. But if I was to put you on the spot now and say what was your, sort of your go-to profile, what would it be?
Oh, it's hard actually, because I think I would actually be with Mick and say that recently I've been kind of leaning into peated and heavily peated a bit harder because it's really tasty, and you can kind of sit there and just uncover all of the different flavors in the glass and sit there all night with one dram. And recently I've kind of been doing that because I kind of only have one dram, so it has to be quite a special one. But I also really like our light and delicate flavor profile. It kind of throws up some unexpected things. Quite often you get some resiny notes, some more floral perfumed notes. And again, you have to maybe work a bit harder to uncover the flavors. But there is a lot of pleasure to be found sitting there and picking out these very fine and delicate notes.
Yeah. Nice. I think that one for me needs just a bit of time in the glass, perhaps here and there, to allow those to sort of to come through. But the longer you take with it, the more I think you're going to find. I've always been a big fan of peated whiskey. On the shelf behind me, if I had to choose between peated the rest of my life and unpeated, I would choose peated. But the shelf behind me, probably 15-20% of it is peated whiskey, and I think that was reflected the same way in my SMWS collection. Most of which are in here, and it goes all the way back. Like there's a good number in there. I wouldn't want to say, but there's only a small amount of the green tops, either lightly peated or heavily peated, in there until a few months ago, and you guys started bringing out, a bottle 42, distillery number 42, one after another. which no spoilers, but Mick and I are fond of a 42. And now I've just got greens left, right, and centre because I can't stop buying them when they come out. Although I did miss out on the last one, so I'm hoping I'll be able to try that at a venue when I'm able to go back.
No, definitely.
And talking of venues, we were touching it there with Mixed Cage. The venues are beginning to reopen. What's the plan for those? Because I know is it definite yet? Are we still waiting for final confirmation or what?
Well, our plan is obviously in line with kind of government guidance. So happily, the vaults is actually open just now already. So you can have food inside and in line with guidance, drams outside. We've just created this beautiful outdoor space. So there's a big shed. And it has glass doors and then tables, umbrellas and heaters. So even when it's raining and freezing, which often is in Scotland in the summer, you can still stay warm and have some drams in the courtyard. And then the rest of our venues will be opening on the Tuesday, the 18th of May, as long as everything kind of keeps going the way that it is, which is exciting.
I hope so. And what about plans for festivals as well? Because you mentioned festivals at the beginning about your, getting into whiskey. You enjoyed that side of it and haven't been able to for the last year, which I think because you've been with the society for 2 years, I think you said.
Yes. Yeah.
So the first half was probably a bit more on your feet and out and active and meeting people, and arguably more enjoyable, I might say, in some respects, perhaps. But what are the plans for festivals now? Have you got anything going on? What's happening?
So our big idea this year is that we're going to just bring the festivals to you. We'd love to be there, but obviously they're all kind of different. And we did do a tasting at Speyside last week. But it's just, things aren't going ahead this year. So we decided we'd bring the festivals to our members. So this Friday, actually, we've got our SMWS First Friday virtual pub. And that's hosted by my colleague Richard, who's actually the editor of Unfiltered. So we've got lots of special guests. We've got Rachel McNeil from the Isla Whisky Academy. We've got live music. We've got Vic Galloway, and we've got Jim Brody from Bunavon. So lots of good guests. So that's one to watch. That'll be at 8 p.m. on Friday. And then the big song and dance tasting is on the 29th of May, Thursday the 29th of May, and that is our festival tasting. And we've got a lovely festival pack here, which includes not all of, but some of our festival drams. And it'll be a good one. So I'll be stepping back into my role as host for that one. We've also got our global brand ambassador, John McShane, and the whiskey bard, Robin Lang, is also joining us to kind of talk about music and malt. So it'll be a really fun night, actually.
I like the way the society does these sort of quarterly sort of tie-ins with different things. I remember the last big one you did was with animals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was Find Your Spirit Animal.
Yeah, I took the quiz and I ended up as the big elephant was it Old and Dignified?
Yeah.
How many times did you retake the quiz, Mick, so that you could get?
Did it once. I was fairly happy with Old and Dignified. As much as the old bit stuck in my throat, I thought, I'll wear that for a bit.
I can't remember. Honestly, can't remember exactly what I got. I think was there like I don't want to say a lizard, but a gecko.
Yeah. There was. There was.
I think I came out as the gecko. But I can't remember what flavour profile that put me with. I'd have to sort of review my emails, I think, to go back.
We're not going to put you on the spot and say, what was it? I can see that. I don't. Your face then, we go, oh no, he's going to ask me what it was.
They were stuck in my brain for quite a while because we did also do a playlist for that. Yeah. And so I had to kind of crowdfund some ideas for what songs we should use for some of the animals, because obviously some of them were a bit harder, some of them were a bit more common, but yeah, it was really fun. And I mean, I think the thing about festival season is it should just be fun, and about enjoying great drams. Unfortunately this year it's not going to be in person. But the very first year I was with the society, I was lucky enough to get to go to both Campbelltown and Isla. And that was just, I joined I started in January, and then festival season was obviously in May. And it was just, I had to pinch myself. I was like, this is my first year of working in whiskey, and I'm on Isla, going around to all of these amazing distilleries and in Campbelltown, just different, I had an interview with Ian McAllister, and it just, that was in the podcast as well. That was just one of those moments where I was like, I cannot believe that this is my job and this is what I get to do every day.
Yeah, amazing. So you're rubbing it in ever so slightly there, I say, man. So
the name dropping. I thought I was bad, Rich. Do you know what I mean? But my name dropping's horrendous.
I think I don't think that's name dropping too bad. What I mean about rubbing it in is, Mick, you worked in whiskey a little bit longer than joining Mackmyra. I joined 3 weeks before lockdown, so I've only been in working in whiskey for 14, 15 months, whatever this massive stretch has been. Yeah, however long lockdown has been is how long I've been in the game. So I've only left my house, a handful of times. The last 2 weeks I've been out and about and enjoying it today. I was at the East London Liquor Company because they've got a shop and they have some of our lines there at their bar as well. And I met the distiller Andy, had a little tour of the distillery as well. So that felt quite cool for a job to do. It's not Isla, but it was a very cool place to be, I would say. And I'm looking forward to being able to get. Mick, you're north of the border anyway. You've got Scotland at your fingertips everywhere. I've got a fair old drive to get up, but I'm up in July, so I'll try and get some distillery tours in then. I hope at least.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There's a booming surgence at the moment, Rich, of English distilleries. Anyway, I think at the last count there was something like just north of 30. We're about 30, 37, somewhere in around that. I don't know exactly. That's the rise.
It is around about there, because I'm speaking to Richard Foster of the the English Whisky Society, but now exploring English whiskey. And I think he asked us on a tasting that we were all on together how many there were, and I counted the ones that I knew and then added 5, thinking, well, there'll be some coming online soon. And it was less than half. So I think it is. I think it's in the 30s. I think it's there or thereabouts. Some of them are very small operations. They've got just tiny wee stills. Probably similar size to what we started out with. 100 litres, like maybe give or take. And but others that are really going for it. And then very encouraging to hear about the Spirit of Birmingham starting recently as well. Brand new distillery there. Looking forward to seeing that. Something to rival White Peak, perhaps, who I think have just had their whiskey turn 3 years old in the last few days, and that was delicious at 2. So yeah.
On that, Mads mentioned another good friend of mine earlier as well, Dr. Kirsty McCallum.
Name dropping.
I'm trying to equal Mads. Do you know what I mean? It can be if you want. But no. So obviously she works for Halewood Artisanal White Spirits now, and they've got Aberfell's distillery in Wales, and that turned 3 years old today, I believe.
Okay.
So so Kirsty put a big post up earlier about getting the casks out, and that was coming 3 years old today. So it's all happening south of Scotland at the moment. Don't get me wrong. Everybody knows how great the world of Scotch is doing and how it's evolving and progressing and expanding. But I think obviously because we come from, well, not literally come from the Swedish distillery, but obviously we're representing a Swedish distillery, the Scandinavia is expanding as well with whiskey distilleries, etc. And doing really, really well in the world in the world whiskey game, and it's nice to see these things and give a nod to people. And I suppose that's probably one of the big reasons I like about being part of the society, Mads. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Because you don't see the big names of distilleries up there, right? And you have to fumble about with your phone to find out what distillery 117 is and all that sort of malarkey. Do you know what I mean? Or distillery number 1 or distillery 42, and obviously people get to know it and they know their favourite ones, and it sort of takes it away. But I do like that. You go, so you're not automatically going, right, I'm looking for a Bunnahabhain. You're going, oh, do you know what, Bob? And the bar staff or the whiskey ambassadors for SMWS are fantastic. Go, look, this is what I like. What have you got for me? Yeah. And they'll do something and not tell you what it is and go, there you go, have a go on that. You go, that's fantastic. What is it? And they'll tell you a name of the distillery. You go, oh, hang on a minute. before I never liked that distillery for some particular reason, and that's one of the things I do love about it, man. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the flavor profiles are really helpful that you're looking at something by flavor. Although I always say that, what you think you like might not be what you liked, because I always thought on paper that definitely deep, rich and dried fruits should be my favorite, because it's lots of warming flavors, lots of kind of sherried notes. And then I tried it and I was like, no, don't think this is for me. And I was more taken with kind of our light and delicate, and then peated. And I didn't really like peated whiskey when I joined the society. But just having a more open mind, and as well the green bottles, you don't see the color of the whiskey until it's poured into the glass. So it's not like you're picking up the bottle and saying, "Oh, look at the color on that." You don't necessarily know the distillery, and you can't see the color of the liquid. So you're literally going by our tasting notes, and or on advice from one of our ambassadors, which is a good way to navigate it.
I honestly, hand on heart say, right, not just because you're here, right, or because I remember, I have hand on heart never really been steered wrong. So Anthony, the assistant manager at the Glasgow Society rooms, when I was picking my keep, my first bottle to put in there, and that one in mind, and picked that. I thought, I want a second one. He's like, "Oh, mate, so we're talking," and that. And he went, "Bang! I've only got one of these left," and it was the pink flamingos. And I was like that, and he had one open behind the bar, and he said, "Have a read." I was like, that bottle in that keep, the now. Do you know what I mean? And that was the end of the run of the pink flamingos, But yeah, can't go wrong with them. Honestly, the advice is second to none.
But when I started, I'd never been. I think it was about 8 months before I went to a venue, and when I joined, I was completely steered by like the flavor profiles and about reading the tasting notes and the outturn and everything that you had, which are incredibly creative. I think they're probably some of the most interesting tasting notes I see from anyone anywhere that puts them out. And until I found the cheat codes that Mick alluded to, I think it was just following the flavor profiles for me and exploring different things. And I bought a handful of bottles as well where I wasn't even that sure about the tasting note, but the ABV and the price seemed right to me. So I thought, well, I'll wing it and I'll see what happens. And ended up, quite liking them the same as well. We're talking about English whiskey distilleries a moment ago. There's lots of English distilleries coming out, lots of people with whiskey now in England. Have you bottled any? I can think of one, perhaps.
We've bottled a few. Yeah.
You bottled a few. Okay, which can you say who they might be without putting their numbers in the mix, or would we have to steer away from that entirely?
I think you can probably figure it out. I mean, there was an English one that was, I think it was earlier this year, maybe last summer. But generally, if I say the name, then you kind of figure out the number. So
yeah, okay. Well,
tend to just be a bit more coy about it.
No, fair. I can imagine. I was wondering. And Whiskey Shorts here, our friend of the brand, asking about have you ever bottled any Mackmyra? There's been a couple of Swedish whiskies bottled, but I'm not sure. I think Mick, rather than putting Mads on the spot, I'll ask you because they're SMWS are in your patch, mate. So
exactly. No, unfortunately, the society haven't yet. I say yet because there's a whole future ahead of us yet.
Yes. Dot.
Yeah. Dot. Exactly.
They have bottled High Coast and Schmergen.
Have they?
Yeah, I know what the numbers are.
Mads won't be able to confirm, of course, but I've tried one of those yet. I haven't had the pleasure of trying the other. If those are those distillery, they were just our best guesses, of course, Mads. And the one that I have tried was absolutely incredible. I tried that the first ever time I went to the venue, to the Greville Street, the London venue, with Simon, aka the Whiskey Novice, and actually Whiskey Shorts, who just commented there, a friend of ours, Tom. So very much enjoyed them then, I must say. And I picked up something that might rhyme with Ben Furry, and a London exclusive, and a 21-year-old for a very handsome price, I thought, or reasonable price, I should clarify. And I've been very happy with that as well. Any major SMWS favourite memories of yours, Mick, be it in the venue or bottles that you might have had?
Oh, bottles. So many.
You've got to remember the number as well, by the way, just to complicate it. Yeah.
Honestly, I can't, right? I can't. But I have bought a bottle based on its name.
Okay.
And now I'm not going to talk about what the name is because it's pre-9 o'clock, right? Now, there's no offence intended by the name on the bottle in any remotely, but it can be construed that way. So we're not going to talk about it. But it is from Distillery 37.
Okay.
I've got it way down the back down there, unfortunately, or else I would quickly look at it. But yeah, it's lovely. I've not opened it yet, but I have had a try of the liquid, and it is lovely. But I literally went out my way to buy this bottle just for the name of it. There's some of the names, man, that tasting panel come up with. There's some pretty mental ones going on in there. Let's be honest.
Yeah, there are. They're always fun, and you always kind of see one come out, and it gives you a smile or a wee chuckle, and yeah, I think every member has probably bought a bottle at some point based on the name, and then maybe they've opened it and tried it and been like, actually, okay, that's a really good whiskey. I loved the name, and I love the whiskey even more. But yeah, that's the names are courtesy of our tasting panel, who also write the tasting notes, and they always will give you a note that has the dram neat, and then adding a bit of water and on the nose and palate, which is really helpful for finding your way and navigating our whiskies, because we've got quite a big selection of them. Yeah,
indeed. So what's your policy, Mad? Your personal way of operating when it comes to water and whiskey? Should they be mixed? Mick and I have got some, not strong views, but we've got consistent, message that we send out to people. But what do you think? Because each to their own, of course.
To each their own, and I think the most important thing about drinking whiskey is that you drink it the way that you want, and you also drink the whiskies that you want. So good whiskey is whiskey that tastes good to you, not necessarily because of the distillery or the age statement. You drink what you like, and you find what you like, and that will change and evolve over time. Because as I said, I didn't like peat when I joined the society, and now I really love peat. So, that's something that changes over time. But in terms of adding water, I don't add water most of the time, but I will always try it with a little bit. I'm cautious with it. There are certain whiskies where I think it really helps. Equally, there are certain whiskies where you add a bit of water and then you kind of wish you hadn't. So it's also about learning how water can enhance the flavors, and maybe what type of whiskey you enjoy with water in it, and what type of whiskey you don't enjoy with water.
Definitely. So on that note, that's the bell for round 2, Rick. I think that takes us before, because as we start talking into it, obviously our throats have started getting a little bit dry from talking about it.
Yeah.
So I think we're at a good time for a refill. So, ladies and gentlemen, please let us know what you're having for your second dram, if you're having a second dram. If not, why not? I know it's a Wednesday, but it's Whiskey Wednesday, guys. Come on. Mads, what's your second dram this evening, pal?
So my second dram is something that I always will get clocked on in tastings, so I figured I may as well play to the stereotype. It is 26.131 if you like pina coladas. I always get asked about Distillery 26 because I am a huge fangirl of Distillery 26, mostly because of its waxy, sweet character. And it's Highland whiskey. This one in particular has some really lovely coconutty vanilla notes, so it's quite tropical, but still got this lovely creamy waxiness that's just super enjoyable.
Nice.
I love a 26. I know, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm going to anyway. Are we going to see any particularly aged 26s? Because I think there's been a lot of very delicious, but 8s and 9s and 10s where it does work very well. But have we got anything on the horizon that might be any older at all?
Not that I know of, but the thing is, we are releasing more whiskey all the time, so I wouldn't be surprised if one does come up, or two. You never know.
I think we're about to get you and Campbell on.
Yeah.
We're about to get spirits manager for the SMWS, the man that's in charge of putting all this together. Basically, we'll have to get him on a bit of a white light, high flashlight sort of interrogation type job.
We'll call it, Nick. We'll call it the Mackmyra Inn lock-in, so that he can't get out until he's
lock-in. I like it.
Until he's answered the questions. Yeah, that's it. That's how you earn your way out the door. Mick, what have you gone? Have you gone for anything fruity and adventurous?
No. So to counteract all that mental bit of like heavy hit of cherry and that smoke flavour and that really sweet of ice cream coming through, I thought I'd cut it through with a nice Grante, last year's spring summer release. So obviously it's our whiskey finished in casks of Japanese green tea. So yeah, obviously the SMWS for its Scotch component. Anyway, obviously you do Armagnacs and some gins and non-Scotch whiskey as well. So obviously with the Scotch stuff, you have to, even though you do re-rack some of your stuff, you obviously still have to play it down the line with the SWA, really, though, don't you?
Yeah.
Imagine that.
We're not going to see like a Glen Murray or a Glen Farkless finished in a green tea cask anytime soon, Rich, unfortunately. He's got Scotch anyway.
So you've got talking about re-racking and things. So you guys have had to be quite creative, I imagine, with how to keep up with demand, because I dare say that last year, if I had an educated guess, just the way that whiskey went, and people becoming very active, especially in things that they can access online. Mm-hmm. You must have had sort of swelling numbers in members joining. Yeah. So how do you keep up with that? What are you going to do?
I mean, I think the thing is, we are bottling more single casks than ever before, and one of the really exciting things is actually this year's Distillery 10 small batch, which I've been getting a lot of questions on, and I actually went and spoke to Ewan earlier today about it, virtually, of course. And it really, what that bottling is all about is sharing and trying to get more people to be able to share our whiskey, because obviously whiskey in general is a finite resource. There's only so much of it. And so the Distillery 10 small batch, it's a larger outturn single malt, and it's a batch of selected casks. It goes through the same rigorous assessment of our tasting panel as everything else does. So the small batch is in line with kind of our experimental blended malts, and you have around 10 casks selected and married together. So this particular one, Distillery 10 small batch, includes Oloroso PX and recharred hogsheads. Nice. So it's a really exciting one, and it'll be out soon.
I think it's good. Oh, sorry, mate. I think it's good that you're doing that, because how can you just keep releasing single casts here and there when you've got so much demand that's there? Things are selling out. Almost everything you release sells out incredibly quickly on a monthly basis. I think that's a good move. I think that's a smart move, and I think that's something that should keep people happy as well, because there's still going to be single casks every month, right? Yeah. So and you mentioned your you started off with the spice can, and I've got a battle axe behind me, and I think I can't remember what a bottle killed now, but another one of the experimental sort of small batches that you do. There's precedent there to show you that you guys are able to do something and put together a really good product by blending things together with it. So I say hurrah to you, and I think that's a good move to keep going forward with. Yeah.
I think sorry, go ahead, Mick.
No, go on. I was only going to, if you had something, I was only going to say I'm on the Vintersol. I'll just crowbar that one in.
Nice. I was going to ask you, but you dived in with a question from Madsburg. Your next round was going to be me.
I was too excited, Mick, to ask, because I'm a member as well. If we haven't said it, we probably should have said it, a disclaimer if it was necessary up front. But Mick and I are both members of the SMWS, very happy to say so and everything as well. So having Mads here, I'm trying to ask some questions that I just feel like I would call up and ask customer services. Anyway,
we've got a live on the line, Rich.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the thing. We are a very small but tight knit team, and like on social, it's me. It's if you send a message to SMWS UK, you'll get an answer from me, unless I'm on holiday, and then you'll get someone else. But otherwise, it's always going to be me that you're talking to, and that's how Rich and I got to know each other. And Mickey, I'm sure you've sent me a message once or twice.
Yeah.
Just because people know that you get me when you send a message to SMWS UK.
I like it when you send a message to any business on social media and someone replies back to you with a name at the end, or they reply to a tweet with a name at the end. So you're talking to a person and not a company. I think that's it's a nice touch. So perfect. Right. Well, yeah, Wintersoul for me, and I'll say cheers or Schmoll.
Schmoll.
Well, we're going to do it every time we ever see you from now on, Mad.
That's it. Mad's never coming through to the Glasgow Society room now. She'll phone up and go, "Is Mickey in?" Yeah, he's like, "Oh, I'm not coming through then. He'll schmoll me or something."
Yeah, I'll just have to get my disguise out.
Exactly.
I say for everyone watching at home, any of our patrons joining us from home, Mick was so pleased with himself when he came up with that bit before we started. He claims he made it up off the top of his head before, when we had a little warm up before coming on, and he was so delighted with it when he came out with it. You should have seen
small victories. You got to celebrate these things. You know what I mean? Especially in these more hectic times. But no, go back to Distillery 10. Big fan of Distillery 10. I've a few bottles down to my right.
Careful.
Sorry,
I thought you were going to point at them. Then I was just saying, be careful, Mick.
But you can't see it. There's a salt in the way and everything.
Okay.
But no, I like the fact that you've done a small batch, and some people have got upset about it. Like, it's not even a blended malt; it's still a single malt. It's just not a single cask. So I mean, it's all from the same distillery, like you would do if you brought one of their core range bottles or something like that. But with the SMWS twist on it, and a lot smaller numbers of the batch as well. I personally can't see anything wrong with it. The only positive I see from it really is that we've seen the posts and that on Facebook. People, I never got a chance to get this bottle, and I never got a chance to get that bottle. Well, like you said, man, there's only a finite amount. There's many thousands upon thousands of members of the SMWS, all spread around the world. You can't all have 157 bottles split up between you. It's just not possible. Do you know what I mean? It's like a loads of fishes scenario, and unfortunately, the man that managed to do the loads of fishes, he's not about these days. So, what you gonna do? So, but no, I like that. It gives a flavour profile from that particular distillery, and it allows more people to have a chance at owning a bottle and trying it, quite frankly.
And trying it. Yeah, I think that's the really important thing as well, is the being able to try it. And that's been one of the things that I've loved actually about hosting these virtual tastings the last couple of months is getting to try whiskies that I wouldn't probably have bought myself. Everything we bottle is really tasty, but not all of it will always be to your taste. And to just be able to try things in smaller amounts and be like, actually, that's a flavor profile I didn't enjoy, but with that distillery and that cask type, sign me up. And your whiskey journey kind of evolves from that point of view, and that's something that the society is just brilliant at doing. Is taking you that next step further in your whiskey journey.
Yeah, it was a very important part of my journey. I'll say that. I think it was the first membership of anything to do with whiskey that I'd sort of signed up to. It's the first club or society, if you will, that I ever joined. And and being able to follow, as we've touched on, already, just going after the flavour profiles as opposed to going after a name that I recognised, or because that's a bit of a misconception that people when you're getting into whiskey, if you haven't heard of a distillery name. And I'm not saying this is true to everyone, but at least for myself and a few people I've spoken to about it, if you don't recognise a distillery name, you half assume that you haven't heard of it because it's no good, which is absolutely, it couldn't be further from the truth.
Crazy, man.
Yeah, and so the amount of workhorse distilleries that I've now got on the shelf behind me, things that tend to go off into blends, and you can usually only find either in independently bottled releases. Or perhaps in Diageo's case, in the Flora and Fauna range, where they just showcase some of the workhorse things that they've got. I think there's so much out there to explore, and you should just go after flavour if you can, and recommendations. Mads, it's about 10:02 now, and this is around about the time. Wait there, Mick's going to ring a bell, I think, any moment. I'll just remember.
Gentlemen, last orders.
I've just remembered with that bell that it's around about 10:02. This is around about the time we have our final round, or I've still got some of my glass, so I think I'll carry on with my Vintersol. But where we ask our patron, VIP patron, what their favourite whiskey scenario is, at least where they are today. So your favourite whiskey scenario, you've got three things: what's in the glass, who might you be with, and where are you?
Okay, so I think I'd probably I'd really like to get walking again. I used to kind of dabble a bit. I'm by no means an experienced hill walker. That would actually be my colleague Julian, who actually wrote for Unfiltered last month about malts and mountains and where you can go and drink whiskey and walk. But Julian actually organised a walk for a couple of my SMWS colleagues, you and Campbell included, and we went on Ranach Moor, and I think it was like 22 kilometers, but it was just cracking. We had some hip flask jams, we had loads of chat, and then we stopped and made some bacon sandwiches, and I'd love to go and do that. The last time we were speaking about it was pre-lockdown, but we'd kind of said that we would go and maybe do some island hopping. So I'd love to go and do an island walk, and have some peated jams, and go walking with those guys again, because it was a brilliant weekend, and we all had such a good time. Nice.
That sounds, I could get behind that. I think 22 kilometers for me sounds quite far. I'm getting tired just going up one flight of stairs, and that's me. I need to sit down at the other end of it now after being an armchair ambassador for over a year and sitting down for just about everything I've done. Mick, are you much of a hill walker, mate? Can you get behind?
Believe it or not, I used to be, Rich, right? Not so much these days. Back in my military days, I was a joint service mountain expedition leader. So went across into Snowdon and got my qualifications to be able to lead a pack of people just below the snow line and all that sort of good stuff. So I used to be. These days, with the years of abuse, the knees and the ankles have taken me from rugby and that hill climbing, and obviously the getting more comfortable as we get older. Weight doesn't itself very well to getting up the hills these days, and quite frankly, I'm just lazy these days. So no, it used to be, but not any longer. No, but okay. I quite enjoy looking at other people's pictures of people doing it. Going, man, I used to remember when I did that, but
no. Well, one day we'll get back to it, mate. I think I enjoy going for a walk, of course, but I think I'm going to have to certainly warm up to those sorts of distances.
Oh, indeed. Me too.
Yeah, we're all in maybe the same boat. Perhaps Mickey and I a bit further down the line, I would say. You had me at bacon. I've just seen Carl pop up. As soon as you said bacon sandwich, I was straight on that. To be fair as well. So, Carl, very much with you there. Are there any particular islands where you mentioned about going, doing some island hopping? Is there a particular one where you'd like to go? It doesn't have to be whiskey based. Obviously, this is part of the scenario still.
Yeah, part of the scenario. I would actually really love to explore Harris a bit more. I was there. I think in 2019 with my fiance, and it's stunningly beautiful, and it doesn't even feel like you're in Scotland anymore because it's just geographically so different. The landscape is so different, but it also, the water is this like stunning blue color, and generally I just love beaches. So. Take me away up north and explore some islands up there. That'd be great.
See, Lewis and Harris, that for me, I could get behind that massively. So Mull will talk. I won't go down the rabbit hole now as I have before, but the west coast of Mull, where my family from, the waters around there is crystal clear around the beaches, and I can imagine that being amplified even further and even more sort of crystal clear up there. I've never been to those islands yet. I think they're some of the only populated islands where I haven't been. I think I was there as a baby. My mum told me some time ago, but yet to go as an adult. I think, we must be looking at something here. Look at that. Look at the colour of that. And there's so many people that live, perhaps in England more so than in Scotland, that have got no idea that there's coastline that looks like that around the UK, and dolphins everywhere as well, and things that you can see. A magical place to be. That's just about, I think, wraps us up. Mick, what have we got coming up? And then I'll ask the same question to Mads as well.
Address our good friend Paul's. Just imagine some rare dram at the top of the hill, Mickey. That's the incentive. If I'm going, you're coming with me. So Paul Dempsey is the main man for Spey Whiskey. Okay. Fantastic guy. Lives just down the road from me as well. So Paul, if I'm going, you're coming with me, and we'll take a hit flask each of whatever we fancy. I'm available for that one. So he's not stitching me up to say that. He's got to come with me if he's coming. But yeah. So coming up next week, we're back at the inn with Chantel, not Mads. We're going to have Chantel this time, and I'll make sure I don't call her Mads. So we're back. Chantel Bugzinski next week of the Facebook group and general all-round Twitter fame of Women's Whiskey World. Mm-hmm. So that'll be interesting. We'll talk some Canadian whiskey and all that sort of good stuff with Chantel. And then the following night, me and Rich will be back with with our monthly tasting of our core range and our Buoc Sav. So that'll be Thursday at 7:00 as well. And the next week we have another guest in a lady called Sarah. Rich is your guest. I don't know much about that one.
Yeah, Sarah McCoubrey, aka I Heart Whiskey. I think Smiley Moggy. Oh my God, I haven't got it in front of me now, and I can't recall. But Sarah's whiskey blogger, reviewer, but also just a bit of a whiskey personality and things as well. Wow. Someone that I have slowly gotten to know through the Whiskey Circus, a group that we reference every now and then at the inn. But looking forward to getting to know her a bit more when she comes to join us as well. Cool, right, Mick, that's it from us. Mads, what have you got coming up? I know we touched on a little bit there, but it's probably worth doing a bit of a recap for SMWS over the next few weeks. And you can let us know when these festival bottles are out as well. If you can give us the scoop.
Well, we have our festival pub session this Friday at 8 p.m. So that'll be on the SMWS UK Facebook page and also on our YouTube channel, which is SMWS Silver Screen. That'll kick off at 8 p.m. BST and it's usually about an hour and a half. As I said, lots of amazing people on. Ian McAllister's on as well, so definitely give it a watch and join in. There's also a pub quiz in that pub session, so see how you get on with that, because sometimes they're hard, sometimes they're easy, but yeah, it's always a bit of fun. And then Thursday 29th of May is our festival tasting, and I'll need to confirm whether there's still packs available on that, but I think there may be one or two still kicking about. And we're also doing a cracking membership offer just now. So if you're not a member, you can join the society for £55. And if you would like to try a bottle, there's a bottle just now, the life of the building, so you can get membership plus bottle for £99, and I think Carl has a link to that page that has that offer.
In the comments for the relevant platform.
But definitely a really exciting month and celebrating all of the whiskey festivals and just bringing them to our members.
Nice, yeah. I have to say, I just saw the link that Carl put up so quickly there as well. He's so good at what he does. But that Find Your Rhythm, I like the sound of that. I think that's a great theme, and whiskey and music go well together so well, and can influence how much you enjoy a whiskey, or not as much as you might have another time, or even more here or there. It can change everything. Any experience with whiskey, a good tune, I think. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Right.
In all fairness, whiskey goes with everything. So, but that's
yeah, indeed. So, Mads, thank you so much for coming to join us. We've had a brilliant time. It's been very nice getting to meet you face to face, albeit virtually. Hopefully, I'll be able to come north of the border sometime soon, and I need to meet Mick for the first time as well. We've never actually met in person.
Oh, really? Okay.
Perhaps we can all get together at one of the venues and go and share a dram. We'll get into Mick's cage that he has there. Great.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure and really lovely to meet you finally, as you say, virtually and hopefully in person soon.
Yeah, perfect. Right. Well, Mick, thanks very much. Cracking job as always. Thank you everyone who's come to join us, some of our pub regulars and other people who've joined us for the first time. Very much appreciate the support. Hope to see you again this time next week, 7 p.m. Well, I should say, an hour before now if you want to be pedantic, but 7 p.m. Next Wednesday for another session of the pub, and then our virtual tasting the next day, of which there might still be some packs left if you look at mackmyra.co.uk. So, good night. I hope you guys have a pleasant evening, and we'll speak to you soon.
For the last time this evening, Schmoll.
Schmoll.
Oh,